We're in the middle of this massive civilizational shift, but it's not really being driven by politics or some new ideology. Nope. It's being driven by infrastructure. We are literally watching the old world, a world built on scarcity, start to crumble. And in its place, a new one, defined by abundance, is rising. So let's break down what that actually means.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. The technology for an abundant world, it's pretty much here, or it's arriving incredibly fast. The real holdup, the real bottleneck, isn't our ability to invent. It's us. It's about whether our civilization can mature fast enough to handle it, to rewire centuries of thinking that's been based on fear and scarcity.
So to really get where we're going, we've got to take a hard look at where we've been. The source material for this explainer calls our current industrial era Day 2, a world that was designed from the ground up on the principle of scarcity.
I want you to really think about this for a second. Scarcity wasn't just, a fact of life. It became the actual operating system for our civilization. It was a design principle that hardwired competition, inequality, and even fear directly into the source code of everything. Our markets, our politics, and even our own minds.
And you can see just how deep that operating system runs. Look at our core systems, industrial labor, competitive markets. These things don't just manage scarcity, they actually need it to work. The whole system is built on the assumption that there's just not enough to go around. So what happens when technologies of abundance show up? Well, the whole structure starts to get really shaky.
And that brings us to the dawn of what's being called Day 3. This new era isn't built on some grand ideology. It's being built on a totally new kind of infrastructure. And the whole thing starts with the most basic building block of civilization there is, energy.
This is the key. You have to get this one point. Think of energy as the first domino. When the cost of energy just collapses, it sets off this massive chain reaction that makes everything else that needs energy, which is, let's be honest, almost everything, radically cheaper to make.
And you can really see the difference here, right? Day 2 was all about extraction, digging finite fuels out of the ground with a centralized conflict-heavy system. But Day 3? It's all about harvesting, tapping into the infinite distributed power of the sun and wind. It's a completely different way of thinking. And the economic result of this shift is it's staggering. Solar and wind aren't just a bit cheaper, they are now the absolute cheapest forms of electricity humanity has ever created. This isn't just a small step forward, it's a complete flip of the entire cost structure of our world.
Okay, so with energy becoming almost free, what's next? Well, we can now start to remake all the other essentials of life. Let's take a look at how this one foundational shift kicks off a revolution in food, water, and even housing.
Let's start with food. The old scarcity model is industrial agriculture. It uses tons of land, and it's super vulnerable to climate change. The abundance model? It uses stuff like vertical farming and precision fermentation. The huge insight here is decoupling. We are decoupling food production from land and weather. That means we can grow what we need right where we need it, all year round.
It's the exact same story with water. Instead of being totally dependent on geography, having to live near a river or get enough rain, these new technologies, powered by that cheap energy, are making water security a reality everywhere. Desalination, even pulling water straight out of the air, these things are becoming totally viable now.
And then there's housing, one of the toughest, most persistent kinds of scarcity we face. Well, automation is finally coming to construction. Things like 3D printing and modular building can create high-quality, safe housing in a tiny fraction of the time and for a fraction of the cost. We're talking about tackling the problem at its very root.
So, we've got abundant energy, food, water, and housing. Awesome. But what ties it all together? What makes it all work? Well, that's the automation revolution, the AI and digital systems that act like the nervous system for this whole new infrastructure.
This table just lays out the whole transition so perfectly. Just look down the list. You've got energy moving from fossil fuels to renewables, food shifting from industrial farming to vertical farming, housing becoming automated. Across every single one of our core infrastructures, you see the exact same pattern, a huge shift away from the centralized, scarce models of Day 2 toward the distributed, resilient, and abundant models of Day 3.
And here's the kicker. None of this technology works in a vacuum. It all interlocks to form what the source calls a planetary utility mesh. It's like a cascading system. First, you have AI-managed grids providing super cheap energy. Then, that energy powers automated farms and factories.
Then, autonomous logistics, drones, self-driving trucks, distribute all the goods. And the whole thing, this entire mesh, is coordinated in real time by digital platforms. It's a completely integrated, self-reinforcing system.
Okay, so this technology is incredible, no doubt. But why does it really matter? What's the point of all this? Well, this last part gets into the really profound human impact of leaving scarcity behind. This is the real so what of abundance.
This might be the most transformative idea of all. Think about it. For all of human history, work has been tied directly to survival. You work to eat. You work to have a roof over your head. But when machines can produce all the essentials for us, that ancient chain is finally broken. Human purpose is no longer defined by just trying to survive.
And that one shift unlocks a whole cascade of others. Psychologically, we can move from a constant state of fear to a state of possibility. And that allows for a huge social shift, where cooperation actually becomes more effective than competition. This then drives a cultural shift, from just extracting value from the world to regenerating it. And all of that leads to the most important shift of all, a personal one, where our purpose is no longer just about survival, it's about contribution.
So, I'll just leave you with this question. It's a question that, really for the first time in history, we might get to answer as a whole civilization. If all your basic needs were totally met by this automated, abundant infrastructure, what would you choose to create? What would you contribute to the world? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in to this explanator.